I'm here today because I failed 30 years ago. I gave up on my dreams and I lost who I was. But I'm not alone. Many of us have unfulfilled dreams and aspirations. And in today's modern language, we have many words that we use on why that might be. Words like people-pleasing, imposter syndrome, perfectionism. Words can build up in our head over time and become like four-letter words. Words like fear, fail, flop. But what if I told you that you could change your beliefs about yourself and your outcome by changing your words? Take those four-letter words and make them four better. Words like fire, fuel, and flip. Today I'm going to ask you to flip your perspective and look at things a different way. Even words themselves. They might not actually be real words or spelled differently. And as I speak to you today, I'm not only talking to you, I'm talking to the me I was 30 years ago. And I would tell her, you're going to achieve your dreams. They matter. It's never too late. And you're going to use your creativity and your words to do it. As far back as I can remember, words have come to me unusually in a different way. They would pop into my head, and I would think they would be something that other people would see, and as an attempt to be the first one to say it first, I would blurt it out excitedly, only to be met with looks of confusion, or I don't get it. This made me feel strange and different, and over time I learned to dial it back a bit and even use humor as a way to introduce these ideas so that if it didn't land, I could play it off as a joke. Except the way I felt wasn't funny. But one place where my creative ideas and making things up did me well was in writing. My teachers would give me good grades, give me some good responses, and I would even win some awards and competitions. So I thought it only made sense that I would look to start a career and do something that had to do with writing. I headed off to college, and I thought I'd pursue a writing path. And I would look at things like journalism, because I like to share other people's stories, or also psychology, because I was interested in why people think the way they think. And maybe I'd figure out why I think the way I do. I remember that first day of college, sitting in class, and I was so excited. I was like, give me all the good stuff. I'm ready to get started. I felt grown up and mature, surrounded by my fellow people that were ready to learn as well. But I was quite literally yanked out of that reality as I felt someone behind me pulling my hair, like we were in grade school. I turned around and shot them a dirty look. Clearly, maybe we weren't all excited to learn as like I was. That time and that excitement began to wear off week after week as I would get my assignments back filled with red ink and lots of grades that weren't what I thought they should be. As those piles of papers got bigger, so did my self-doubt and my belief that maybe this was not meant for me. And after 1 year, I decided to leave and take a different path. I looked at going and I went to travel school to become a travel advisor and become someone that I could help others explore the world in a different way. As I left college, I left those dreams behind and a little bit of me. But it wasn't a complete loss because that guy that pulled my hair that first day in class, he got my attention and we got married. And then we had a couple of kids, we had 2 daughters, and I was getting the career mom thing down. So I thought there'd be plenty of time to me to get back to writing someday. But words were about to hit me in a different way when we were expecting our 3rd child. And I went into the doctor's office to have an ultrasound, and laying there, I heard words that many people would never hear. I see 4. Our family of 4 doubled to 8 overnight when we had quadruplets. And for someone that liked to plan for others, I could never have expected that. For someone who also loved adventure, I was about to get a whole lot more of it in the years to come. As a mom, because I had a lot of kids, I thought I'd be really good at the mom thing, and I looked around what other moms were doing, and I thought that those were the things that I should be doing. Only something as simple as a photo that I would see other moms taking turned out great, but when I did it, it turned out like this. That feeling of being different and not fitting in wasn't going anywhere. In fact, it was getting louder. You would think that I would be used to it, but it wasn't getting any easier. And as my girls got older, I would tell them, do whatever it takes. Don't give up on your dreams. And as I was encouraging them as they were ready to go off into the next chapters of their lives, I thought, I'm not taking my own advice. And so I decided that needed to change. And in 2020, I decided that would be the year, as my quads would leave off for college, that I would write my first book. And like life likes to do, it got a little crazy once again as my business stopped and travel came to a complete stop when no one was going anywhere. But the flip side of that was it gave me plenty of time to write. And I did write my first book in 12 weeks. And why that felt amazing, I still had a hard time calling myself author or writer. Now I felt more conflicted than ever. You see, you think those things like having quadruplets, writing a book, and some of those other things I mentioned might be defining moments for me. But actually, they came with some labels that I put on myself that needed redefining. Another thing that makes me different is my strange ability to hear maybe one or two notes or one or two words of a song and know immediately what it is, particularly if it's from the 90s, 80s, or before that. And it's like it's ingrained in my head and I can't get it out. And speaking of that, I brought along a record because that's one of my favorite ways to explore music and older music. It's kind of fascinating when you think about it, that the lyrics and the music are pressed into the vinyl. And you have to be really intentional when you listen to a record because you have to find the record of your favorite artist, and you typically find the side of the songs that you like the most and play it from start to finish. You don't just get to push a button or skip around like you do today. If this were the soundtrack of my life, these grooves would represent the labels that I put on myself. Like, I don't fit in, I'm a travel advisor, stay in your lane, you're different. And I play them over and over every day. And like every well-played record, over time, it can get scratched. It can get stuck and it doesn't sound very well. And so it needs to be addressed. But what if instead you could just simply flip it over and create a new soundtrack? Tell yourself new things that would actually sound good and help you to get where you want to go. I knew for me that first thing I had to address was being different and not fitting in. When you see this picture, what comes to mind? Can you think of a time where you felt this way, where you felt like you didn't fit in? Maybe your school, family, a friend group? Typically, we think of the black sheep as being bad. But I was really intrigued when I heard a story in Tennessee of a zoo that had a rare birth of a giraffe born without spots. I went to the website of this zoo and I read that the giraffe was accepted into the herd immediately and they didn't see her as different. The public was really excited about it and the media picked up on it, and we were invited to participate in a naming ceremony that the Bright Zoo had picked out of four different Swahili names that had different meanings. And the one that got the most votes was Kikiki, which means unique. I thought to myself, why am I not thinking of myself as this way? Different to unique. That is what I call is a flipping point. When you take a thought pattern or something that's keeping you stuck and you change it into something else, it can change everything. And what I'm talking about today is flips. We're going to use the word flip, and a flip is taking one word or pair of words and changing it to something else, and it will help you. We're going to use the word flip as our framework, and that first letter is F, which is find. My years of being a travel advisor have taught me in order to plan a good trip, you need to ask some questions. Figure out what it is people want to get out of their trip, start with where they are, and figure out the best way to get there. And just because somebody picks the same destination doesn't mean I'm going to plan it the same way. Everyone gets their own unique itinerary. The first flip here is wander to seek. The famous quote that we hear by J.R. Tolkien, the author of Lord of the Rings, that says, "Not all who wander are lost," is taken from a beautifully written poem. And like most written word, we can interpret it to mean different things. But I don't believe it means we just wander about aimlessly as an excuse to not have to do anything. I believe it's an invitation to take the time needed to seek out where it is we're headed and where we're meant to go. As a child, when we played hide and seek, the game wouldn't work if somebody didn't go hide and somebody didn't go seek them out. For me, my dream of writing was staying hidden, and it was time for me to seek it out. I knew exactly what it was that I wanted to do, but maybe you just have a knowing within yourself that you're meant for more. This next flip will help with that, which is go back to move forward. When you look at the story of your life, it's filled with chapters made up of words that you tell yourself. And when you go back to those early days, particularly your grade school and high school days when you think anything is possible, what words describe what you were doing when you had the most enjoyment? What words describe the characteristics that you had to exemplify when you achieved some really hard things? What are the words that describe when you went through really hard times and your back was against the wall? For me, as an example, when I had quadruplets, I was able to drum up way more strength than I ever thought was possible, and I got to use my creativity in a different way. Finally, what are those words that keep you stuck, that you need to address? Armed with that information, we are going to move into the next letter, which is the L, and that's leverage. Here's the confidence section. And I get it, we're not going to feel very confident when you step into something new or try something new. We're going to have that imposter syndrome pop up. And the flip here is imposter to trailblazer. Instead of focusing on you don't have enough experience or you don't know enough to do something different, call yourself a trailblazer, and now it becomes an adventure. When I was feeling stuck in which way next, of here's my usual path of how I'm known as a mom and as a travel advisor, or it's this way to my creative endeavors, I didn't have to pick a lane. In fact, I could merge the two together and blaze a new trail in only a way that I can. And if you decide to do something, even if it's been done before, only you are going to have the unique characteristics in a path that is meant for you to blaze. But I get it, we're still not going to feel comfortable. It feels very easy to stop here, but we're not going to. I know you want everything to feel wonderful, but the next flip is wonderful to O-N-E, wonderful. What is the one thing about you that makes you unique? What is the one thing that is a strength and talent? And you might be using it already, or you might, like me, have been hiding it. Those words and my creativity are a wonderful thing about me. And if you take your one wonderful thing and you add it with some of those other things we found out before of what you had to draw upon to overcome hard times, the characteristics that you did to achieve great things, we start to add up all those wonderful things, and then it happens. The flipping point. And I believe that it deserves a name, because it might be one moment that goes through your head that says, I got this, I can do this. And you don't just want to let it go in one side and out the other. You need to recognize the flipping point, because we're going to take that, and it might be one wonderful step over the line of confidence to self-doubt, or just 1% further to, I'm going to go ahead and do this, than apprehension. But that's okay, you're never going to have 100% certainty. So now it's time to move into the next letter, which is I, and implement. Now we're going to take action. You've done a lot of learning and research up until this point, and we don't want to stay there. It's time to go from consumer to creator. It can be hard when we're going to do something that we know is going to be difficult, and we think we don't know enough yet, and you can fall back into that. I need to learn one more thing. I need to know one more thing. For people that like to learn like me, I call this procrastinating, and it can be an excuse. But I can't call myself a writer if I'm not writing. I can't just consume other people's writing. I have to be doing it and trust that I'm going to learn as I go along. But just because you take on one more thing, it does not mean you're going to magically have more time to do it. Time is a limited resource. And this next flip is my favorite. Not just in the doing, it's in how I changed my thinking on what I was going to have to give up. That is deprivation to acceleration. Instead of me focusing on what I'm missing out on when I have to take the time to do whatever I want to do, I'm now focusing on it's going to get me to where I want to be faster. That's smart. And now I can just simply step on the gas and move along faster and past any distraction, say, not today. And as you're moving faster, now it's time to check in with where you're going, which is the P portion, position. As you move along faster towards your dreams and your goals, life is going to happen. People are going to try to pull you into their agendas, and it's time to stay focused. The flip here is shallow to depth. Resist the urge to stay at the surface level things of distraction and not meant for where you're going to go. It's time to dive deeper. And even though it's scary to leave the shallows behind, you know that you no longer crave some of those things. It's maybe darker and more lonely, but that's where the true treasures lie, because you feel more alive, more content and connected with yourself. And those that you do allow in the depths with you, those relationships are automatically going to be more meaningful because you're going to have a greater connection based on who you truly are. And speaking of that effect on other people, that brings us into the last flip, which is influence to influence. The power of influence, I had to change this word because I used to not like the way what would come to mind when I'd think of influence. I thought it meant somebody was just trying to get me to think a certain way. But when I explored the meaning further, I found it to be an invitation, that someone gets to take what they know and somebody else gets to benefit from it. When I look back at the me 30 years ago, I could have used more influence. I could have sought out mentors. I could have gone to my teachers and found out how they could make me better instead of just throwing in the towel. Today, as I get to do the things that I'm meant to do and follow my dreams, I can influence others in a positive way, and they can benefit. That's a win-win. And who couldn't use more wins in the world today? And the best part about all of this is just when you reach your dream, it doesn't mean it's over. Like any good trip, when you get to the end, you're already thinking about the next one. And this time, you're likely to go further or be more adventuresome on your next trip. Now you get to think of the next dream and how you're going to get there, and you can use the flips and the flipping point to get there. For me, a dream was to be here sharing this in this way. And I wanted to do it before I turned 50. You know what? Tomorrow's my birthday. And I feel so honored that you get to be here to share in my dream and my early birthday party. And so as you reach your own flipping point and you do the great things that you're about to do, I want you to share them with me. Come find me, and I'll see you on the flip side.